Okay, good morning everybody. It's Tuesday the 9th of September. This is AI with Kyle. I'm going to be walking through the AI news and updates of the day, plus taking live questions from the audience as well. Good morning for people who are joining us live. Remember, you can find all of these videos on YouTube as well. So you can find the kind of edited, cut up versions are going to be a lot easier to access via YouTube, as well as the other live stream, which I'll be doing immediately after this one, where we talk about building in public. Now, I've just realized I haven't plugged in my fan, so give me 1 second. Sorry to the editor. How can I do this without moving absolutely everything? There we go. There we go. The fan is now in. I have a camera that will overheat if it is not plugged in. I'm actually going to redo that intro, so if you're watching live, sorry, that's going to be very annoying. Good morning everybody and welcome to AI with Kyle. It is Tuesday the 9th of September and we're going to be running through the AI news and updates of the day, as well as taking live questions from the audience who are now on TikTok, who've just watched me do this intro twice because I had a bit of a technical error. So sorry for those people who have heard me say this not once but twice already. All of the recordings are going to be available on YouTube. You can find it at YouTube. I am Kyle Balmer, so the same social name as everywhere else. And you're going to find the cleaned up, edited versions of these videos, as well as on Instagram, TikTok, etc., all those good places. TikTok is my main channel. Trying to build Instagram, but I have the feeling I'm not good enough looking, and so I'm not doing very well over there. TikTok's fine though. So TikTok is my primary. Cool. We are going to hop into the AI news of the day. Nothing massive. Probably the biggest piece of news is about Mistral. They've just raised, what series is this? Is it Series C? I'm not seeing it. So Mistral have agreed a 1.3 billion euro deal. So the Dutch chip equipment maker ASML and the French artificial intelligence champion have agreed a $1.3 million deal. So the ASML company, they're a chip creator, are investing 1.3 million into Mistral, forging an alliance between two of Europe's leading technology companies at a time of heightened concerns over reliance on US big tech groups. Mistral is really the only competitive European model. I say competitive, I don't really know of many people who use it. It has a really good position in that it's in the EU, and the EU has the EU AI Act, which is going to, well, has already begun to have an impact in what artificial intelligence can be used. So Mistral is in a really good position to place themselves as the primary AI within the EU. That said, we also had news that the EU is thinking about investing in their own large language model, so building a large language model for the EU specifically. Don't know why they're not working with Mistral, because Mistral have been doing this for a few years and have a solid model. If we hop over to artificial analysis, let's have a look and see. Let's see where Mistral currently lands. Oh no, let's do it on LM Arena. Excuse me, because it's a lot easier. So I'm going to go to the leaderboards inside of LM Arena, and we're going to look for Mistral. Let's say in text. They're generally in the top 20 or so. There we go, 14th. So at the moment, Mistral is sitting in 14th position on LM Arena for the text competition in particular. Mistral Medium 2508. So they are in the running. They're above, for example, which is Microsoft's model, which they launched a couple of weeks ago. Sorry, they haven't even launched. They've got it in testing. Mistral Medium, the other model, is sitting at 30th, so just below Claude 3.7 Sonnet. I would say they're not a front runner by any means. That's primarily the US and the Chinese models, but they have a horse in the race, and with an additional 1.3 billion euros, maybe they can begin to push forward. But put this in the context of Anthropic's recent raise. So Anthropic, the creators of Claude, last Monday, so about 8 days ago, confirmed that they'd raised an additional $13 billion, so 10 times this amount. This, I feel, is the problem with a lot of EU and non-American and non-Chinese artificial intelligence, is that the companies in Europe, the companies in the UK, not that I can think of any, are behind already. and they need to spend a lot more in order to catch up. Based on our current paradigm, which is just throw more compute at the problem, so build larger data centers and spend more money training. Based on that, they just need to spend more money, but instead they're spending less money, so it's going to be very hard to catch up with the companies like OpenAI, like Anthropic, even like Grok. Grok was built by brute forcing the problem of training a model by building one of the largest data centers on Earth, throwing money at the problem, and now Grok is competitive. So Grok sits at 8th place, for example, Grok 4 in the LM arena. So unfortunately, 1.3 billion euros, a huge amount of money, massive amount of money. But the scale of what we are now talking about in terms of training models, building data centers, etc., means that $1.3 billion is probably not enough to sustain, and it's certainly not enough to catch up. So great that there is some movement, but based on the current economics of just spending your way to a better model, this is not going to be sufficient unless they can come up with a better way of training that doesn't require as much compute. That's a big if, an extremely big if. Anyway, congratulations for Mistral. They've raised a total of 1.7 billion in euros in their latest round of funding, valuing the 2-year-old startup at nearly $12 billion. So again, fantastic, but we have to put that in the context of the other companies, OpenAI, Anthropic, DeepSeek over in China, because it's generally not enough just to be as good or slightly worse than your competitors in the world of AI, because people just won't use your model, and then you won't have customers, and you don't have any chance to get into profitability. Not that anyone is really profitable at the moment. I'm going to hop over to some questions. Seem to have a viewer comment has appeared on the screen. I'm not quite sure how to get rid of that. I think it's gone. Tell me if it's not gone over on YouTube. It's actually a really good comment. It's from my build in public stream, but it was from the build in public stream yesterday. Somebody suggesting that I add YouTube thumbnails to my piece of software when it generates lead magnets. So I'm going to actually go ahead and do that. I forget who said it, but it was a really good idea. So after this stream, I'm going to do another stream where I am working in Lovable to create a piece of software from scratch over 30 days. I'm spending 1 hour per day building up this piece of software with the goal of taking it to market and generating some revenue by the end of the month. It's gone now. It was there with screen share. Aha! Yeah, there it is. 1 second. It's gone. There we go. I'm using a new piece of software which allows me to stream in 4K 60 frames per second. Looks great over on YouTube. For you guys who are on TikTok, I highly recommend checking it out on YouTube, because you can see the screen, you can see everything in 4K 60 frames per second. It just looks really nice. I think personally we've spent a lot of time and money doing this setup, so hopefully it looks good. I just need to sort out my background so it looks less like my front room library. Awesome. So I think I've got rid of that. So moving over to questions. Cool. I've got confirmation that it has disappeared. Not seeing any questions. That is absolutely fine. But seeing some familiar faces. I'm going to have a look at, so there's this, lots of people have been talking about this for the last week or so. There is a content strategist role going at OpenAI, the creators of ChatGPT, and they are paying, I think it's $300,000. Let's see where the money is. Compensation is $300,000 to $393,000 US dollars. Plus equity, so they're paying a lot of money. This is a pretty good role. So the job is they need a content strategist to define and execute the content strategy for ChatGPT. The role is critical in creating high impact content that drives awareness, top of funnel traffic, and product adoption, etc., etc. So a lot of people have been pointing at this and saying, well, I thought you were going to replace all of this with artificial intelligence. Why are you hiring somebody at 300,000? I think this is kind of missing the point a bit. There are different gradations in jobs. So what we are seeing, and the data seems to be pointing at this as well, is that AI is eroding lower level positions. It's eroding entry level positions. It is eroding markets like Fiverr and Upwork, where the level of the work and the quality of the work is relatively low. What we're looking at here with a content strategist working for OpenAI, a company that is worth billions of dollars, is somebody at the top of their game. This is not an entry level position, not at $300,000. These kind of positions are safe for now. Yes, AI is going to roll up the chain, AI will get better, and eventually these positions will not be safe. But until then, the people at this kind of level are absolutely fine. It's going to be the entry level and the lower level positions that are most at risk of AI automation, because frankly, a lot of those jobs can be done by AI. And I actually saw a good article over here, which was on the, I don't even know what this website is, LBB Online, Little Black Book, excuse me. So there's a guy, a creative director here, talking about saying, if AI takes our jobs, it's because we've made our jobs really stupid. And I agree with him entirely here. If a person's job is primarily moving things around or putting together very basic art assets or writing a huge amount of low-level copy for a website, this is the kind of stuff that AI is very good at. And that's why AI is coming to take these particular jobs, because it is very rudimentary, it's very mundane, it's kind of the same thing, it's not particularly creative, and it means that these jobs are going to be massively at risk, and they're going to be the entry-level jobs. What we've seen with Fiverr in particular is a drop-off in certain categories on Fiverr for things like copywriting. So obviously you can hire a copywriter who is at the top of their game, somebody who has generated millions for their clients by helping them to rewrite copy for sales pages for marketing materials. Those people are probably going to be safe. They are going to be using artificial intelligence to work faster and better. The huge risk are for the people who are not at that level, for the people who are either entering a particular industry because they've seen how well other people have done in the industry, or they've entered a year or two ago and they haven't really got their chops in place, they haven't got clients, they haven't got a large portfolio of work. They're the ones that are going to be most at risk. So I see people criticizing the fact that ChatGPT are hiring a content strategist, but I think it's missing the point. AI is going to affect content strategy, absolutely, but it's going to do it unequally, depending on where you are, what industry you are, what level you are in your particular career. We're not going to see it sweep across every single role at exactly the same pace. I think somebody is trying to prompt inject my my YouTube over here. So is this somebody who thinks I'm an AI? I'm not an AI, but I love that you all think I am still, or a few of you do. I'm going to hop over to the questions. Still no questions. You guys are quiet today. That's no problem. Okay, what do we have here? There is a paper that came out 3 days ago, a couple of days ago, over the weekend, basically, about why AI models hallucinate. So hallucination is when, well, you know, from day-to-day usage of AI, when it will simply make something up. So if you ask for a fact, an AI will often very confidently give you an answer, which is completely untrue. This has been improved and ameliorated over the last couple of years by the fact that we now have search embedded directly into all of our large language models. Now you can actually go and get citations, you can get websites, you can pull in information from the internet. That helps a lot. That used to be Perplexity's big differentiator. That is no longer the case. All these models can do it now. However, they do still hallucinate. They will still make up information. And this paper, which has just come out from OpenAI, it's mainly from OpenAI and a guy at Georgia Tech, is talking about why this might be the case. Now, the big insight that they have come to, and I think is really interesting because it's also an admission, the big insight in this paper is that because we test all of our AI models with benchmarks, we have tests, we have things like LM Arena, etc. We have basically standardized tests for these large language models. We are overfitting to those particular rubrics. So we are building models that do well in these tests, because doing well in tests is what allows you to launch and for people to be impressed with your model. What is happening specifically, so it's not just overfitting to the test, it is specifically the fact that if you say I do not know in one of these tests, then you will get marked a 0 generally. That means that these models are disincentivized from saying I do not know the answer to that, and instead they come up with something plausible sounding that may be right, which allows them to score better in the tests. So the fact that OpenAI has put forward this paper, they've published this paper, paid for the research, and gone ahead and published it and are now promoting it, shows that they know that the benchmarks, that the testing, that things, that releasing all of these kind of metrics before you launch is harmful. It's harmful for the industry because it means that the AIs will never tell us that they don't know because they get a 0 score. So what they're suggesting in this paper is we need to change those tests, or we need to stop relying on the tests quite as much. So it's a bit like, a student who is prepared for an exam. They cram everything into their head. They know exactly how to answer questions in a way that gets them points, but they're not actually learning anything. They're not actually improving themselves. And as soon as they're out of that test chamber, they stop thinking. Test chamber, we don't call it that. The exam hall. Test chamber is very scientific. We're seeing the same thing with large language models. So we need to change the metrics. We need to change the tests that we put them through to allow for I do not know answers, or even to reward I do not know answers when the answer is not known. So I think this is quite an important paper because it will change how we think of intelligence, how we think of what is a good model and what is not a good model. Because recently there were examples of GPT-5 coming out with answers which were, I don't know the answer to that. And that was seen as a breath of fresh air. So instead of making something up, which generally a model would do, it would just say, no, I have no idea. I do not know the answer. And then it would point you in the direction of where you might find out that answer. I personally prefer that. And I'm sure a lot of people would, because it allows us to use these models more confidently, knowing that it isn't just making stuff up, which is one of the major and very real problems with large language models right now. So I think this is incredibly refreshing, not only that they've worked out what is going on and they're asking for changes, but the fact that they are admitting, OpenAI are admitting, we, including OpenAI, we as an industry, we have been focusing too much on these tests and focusing too much on making sure we do really well in these tests. We need to kind of relax on that and focus on what is most useful for the user at the end, rather than what's good for the test, which I think is incredibly refreshing. Let's see if they actually change how they act, because if they do worse in the tests, it kind of requires everyone to to make new tests together, or to agree not to do the old tests. So it's going to be a bit of a shift moving forward. We'll see. It's refreshing to see, but I don't know if it will actually change anything yet. Hi Fruit, you probably think you have an AI helper in the YouTube chat window. No, that's my business partner in the YouTube chat window. Yeah, somebody put in text green game over with some, I think they're trying to put something. Oh wait, no, it's probably an emoji based on the formatting. Anyway, who knows? I did have somebody who would always turn up in my TikTok chat and tell me that I was an AI, like every morning. She seems to have stopped now, so I don't know if I proved it, or maybe just fully believes that I'm an AI and is not wasting her time anymore. Whatever. Both are fine. What do we say? Oh, this is not news, but something that I wanted to flag up. So there's a website called conspicuouscognition.com. I managed to say it correctly. By Dan Williams. And 2 days ago, he has put out a new 10-week syllabus and readings, and I believe he's also doing live sessions as well. So it's called The Philosophy of Artificial Intelligence, a 10-week syllabus and readings. Can computers think and feel? Will super intelligent machines cause human extinction? How will advances in AI transform democracy, society, the information environment, and human relationships, etc. By Dan Williams. And he's put together a reading list. He's put together all the articles and the videos that you should be watching. So week 1, for example, is AI, History, Core Ideas and the Turing Test. So essentially is Computing, Machinery and Intelligence by Alan Turing. Chapter 1, what is artificial intelligence in AI, its nature and future, by Oxford University Press, and then a bunch of YouTube videos, including the excellent videos by 3 Blue 1 Brown, which I'm always recommending. What is a neural network, gradient descent, how neural networks learn, and large language models explained briefly. Even if you're not going to do this whole 10-week course, definitely check out 3 Blue 1 Brown, I always say it wrong, over on YouTube, if you want to understand how large language models and how machine learning and neural networks is actually working and get an intuitive idea. Really, really good videos. And then this 10-week course basically goes on. Week 2 is the meaning and possibility of artificial intelligence, so defining the different types. Week 3, the meaning and possibility of artificial consciousness. Week 4, will artificial intelligence kill us all? Love it. Week 5, a normalish technology or a scary alien species. Week 6, AI, society, democracy. Week 7, AI, misinformation and the epistemic commons. Ooh. Week 8, AI and work. Week 9, social AI, chatbots, friendbots and sexbots. Okay, salacious. Week 10, technological determinism and our AI future. So it's a 10-week kind of syllabus. Lots of reading, lots of watching, but they are also, I think he's doing live calls, and I believe it's free. I'm not sure, but I highly recommend checking this out because I've gone through the list and it looks like a really good set of resources. So it is, again, it's at conspicuouscognition.com, or no, I was going to say you can probably Google Dan Williams, but that won't be enough. So Google Conspicuous Cognition and it should pop up. And he published this a couple of days ago, so this will be easy enough to find. I'll also put this in the newsletter. So the newsletter comes out tomorrow, connected to this particular live, and that has links to all of the things I'm talking about, as well as my thoughts in text. So it's a little more, well, I'm not thinking on the fly, but instead you get to read something that's a little more structured. So if you want to get that, make sure you are signed up. There's a link in my bio and it is totally free to get that. And I'll put the link for this Conspicuous Cognition in tomorrow's issue, so that you can find it, because it looks really good. And I think I probably will do it. What I might do, because I'm a glutton for punishment, is I might live stream some of the information as well. Cool. So definitely check that out. And if you're not going to do the whole thing, check out the videos by 3 Blue 1 Brown, which are just amazing. User 699944, I think you asked this yesterday, didn't you? Will AI consulting and implementation always be valuable even when implementation becomes so easy? Yes, because people don't necessarily know what they need to implement. So your job as a consultant is to go into a business and help them marry what their business needs are, what problems they need to solve, with artificial intelligence. Also, don't overestimate people's level with AI. I mean, gosh, there are some people who can't use Excel still after years and years. So this stuff's relatively new. We are in a small bubble. If you're watching a live stream with me, some British geek sitting in its front room talking about AI, you're in a percent of a percent of a percent who actually pays attention to this kind of stuff. So when you go out into the real world and you talk to business owners and you talk to people in businesses, they don't know what's going on. So there is a window. Obviously, that window will close as AI starts to be easier to use and placed within existing software. But you have a good couple of years. It takes a long time for this kind of stuff to filter through and filter down into businesses. And even then, what you are paying for when you hire a consultant is an outsider's view. So a lot of the stuff that consultants can do could be done internally within an organization, but it's not done. So what a consultant gives you is it's an outsider who can come in and look at your processes with a blank mind, a tabula rasa, and say, okay, these are the things we need to change, and then they're going to apply artificial intelligence on top of that. So even when AI becomes more and more prevalent and building becomes easier and easier, what you're still providing is that valuable service. So as long as that is the case, there's going to be money to be made. I would also not worry too much about longevity. Nothing right now This sounds dark, but everything we do is on a timer. With artificial intelligence in play, all jobs have a longevity deadline at this point. We don't know how long it is, and it's going to be different for different jobs. Physical jobs, for example, are going to last longer because our robotics is behind, but everything is on a ticking clock right now. So I would say don't worry too much about finding the perfect thing, because we don't know. We do not know what the future holds. I would just get into action as fast as possible and start to, make money, start to secure an income, and be ready to pivot for whatever happens. That's going to be more important than flexibility and being able to change to what's working this month, this year, is going to be more important than finding the perfect thing, because we do not know what that is. We do not know what is going to be valuable 10 years from now because of artificial intelligence. So right now, what you can do is you can use that uncertainty to make money. So I go and give workshops to businesses. I charge about $2,000 an hour. That's my kind of base. The most I've charged is $4,000 per hour, because there is uncertainty and because there is chaos right now. That allows you, as somebody who knows about this stuff, as a consultant, as an expert, as an advisor, as a teacher, an educator, that allows you to make good money for now. Will that be the case 10 years from now? I don't know. But I don't know what any job is going to look like 10 years from now. So all you can do right now is focus on what you can control, focus on the now, and move forward on that as quickly as possible, being ready to pivot for whatever is coming. And it's a lot easier to pivot once you have cash reserves, once you have clients, once you have a business in place. Is going to allow you to move into those other places much faster. So another question. It's because you're too good to be true, my man. Lol. I wish it was that. But thank you. User said, thank you. Yes, did ask yesterday, but had to leave the stream early. Yes, absolutely. Cool. I'm glad you were here for it this time. Sorry, sometimes I need to scroll back up and find the questions. So I'm glad we got you an answer. Is it a free 10-week course? Yes, it is. It looks like it is. Let me put it up again. Yep. It's an introductory syllabus. So the actual resources are articles and YouTube videos. Some of them are books, so you'd have to get a copy of those books. You can buy them, we can get them from a library, I'm sure. And I thought he was doing a live version, but I'm no longer seeing that. I think that was on his Twitter or somewhere else. What I should do, I should reach out to him and see if he wants to do it live. That'd be fun. But yes, the articles, etc., are all free, and that's self-paced, and it's at conspicuouscognition.com. But that will be self-study. That's basically reading. What I might do if I do this course is I might set up like a group where we can discuss this, and we can do it like a reading group. That would be really fun. There's quite a lot here, so it's only for people who are really quite serious about this. But I think that'd be really fun, because the content here looks fantastic. I say this as if I'm not already extremely busy, but why not? I'm starting as an AI consultant, but feel I'm lacking business understanding. Any good resources? Yeah. So I have an MBA, and I've started multiple businesses over the years. Starting and running a business is probably the best thing you can do. In the meantime, and I say this as somebody who has an MBA, I wouldn't get an MBA now. Don't do that. There's a really good book called The Personal MBA by Josh Kaufman. It's a hardback book, or I think there's a paperback version, but there's also, everything is available free online. If you look up The Personal MBA, Josh Kaufman, really good, really good. And I say this as somebody who studied this stuff formally. I would recommend people just get that book instead and work your way through it, and you start to apply the concepts while you build something. Ultimately, building your own business is the only way that you really get this kind of experience, but it depends on who you want to consult with. If you want to consult with let's say healthcare, for example, you do really need to get into the healthcare industry and have some experience. Otherwise, you're not going to be very useful. So generally, I would recommend consulting, advising, providing services of any type in an industry that you have some experience in. If you do not have any experience in it, there's a guy at Y Combinator who talked about this recently. He called it, he came up with a funny name for it, like covert embedding or something like that. But basically, he was saying go and get a job in that industry for a few months. And then at least you can see what kind of problems they run into on a day-to-day basis. And then you step back and you help build an AI automation solution to help them cut through those problems. He came up with some silly name for it, but it was basically get a job. Get a job and be inside, and then you can work out what the problems are. Otherwise, if you have AI expertise, but you don't have industry expertise, you could partner with somebody who does have expertise within a particular industry, an industry that you want to target, somebody that has connections, somebody that's able to get you in the right places, into the right meetings in order to make those sales. That person would probably be your kind of business arm. If you do the technical part, you find somebody who can do business, who can do marketing, who can connect you, somebody who has industry experience, and you work together. That's the other way to deal with it. Yeah, those are basically your options. So there's a few things you can do. But AI could even replace doctors now in surgery. Yeah, it can. Robotics is very expensive at the moment. So robotics has not had its ChatGPT moment yet. Robotics is currently very specific. So every robot we make is pretty specific. It has a narrow remit in what it can do. So we haven't really moved beyond that. Obviously, the potential, the dream is things like the Optimus robot from Tesla and the Chinese variants that are being made, these bipedal multifunction robots. That's where we're moving towards, but right now they're just too expensive to be practical. So that means that a lot of physical jobs, plumbing, electrician, certain medical jobs, for example, are going to be safer. They're not safe, but they are safer from artificial intelligence because of that. We have something called jagged progress, or the jagged edge of artificial intelligence. AI is pushing forward in different sectors at different rates. So it's really good at some things, it's rubbish at other things. And robotics and the physicality of AI means that some sectors are just going to take longer to be disrupted. There are also things like laws. So we have pretty good self-driving cars right now. Not perfect, but neither are human drivers. But what's holding it back are the laws and the regulations against self-driving cars. So there are always going to be blocks to progress in certain industries, which means that AI is going to have an impact on different industries, different areas of human life at different speeds. Maybe we'll have $2,000 an hour. Yes. Yeah, that's what I charge for workshops. But it works out, so it sounds like a lot for me to make individually, but when there are 100 people in the room and I'm giving a workshop to 100 people, that's $20 per person per hour. Cheap, very cheap. So when I taught, when I got paid $4,000 for 1 hour, there were about 400 or 500 people in the room, so it's less than $10 per person per hour. It's cheap. It's very cheap for that kind of training. Maybe we will have people on government payment, so UBI, potentially. This is a big if. Most of our governments only make big shifts, like introducing UBI, Universal Basic Income, under a huge amount of pressure, and we are not there yet. It's going to take a crisis. I mean, gosh, we can't even deal with climate change, and we know that's a big issue. To get humanity together, to make these kind of sweeping social, environmental, political changes, it takes bringing humanity to crisis point. We're very good at kind of pulling ourselves out of danger, but we're not very good at planning ahead for these kind of things. So UBI and the government paying us all a basic wage, or a corporation, it might not be governments, is a potential fix. It's just, there are many steps to get there. Many steps, and whether we get there or not, I don't think is it's not an obvious pathway. But potentially UBI is in the future. I love this, high fruit. I see it more as skills and knowledge building time, so right now, while the dust is all up in the air, and then you can implement that to have something that will have more stability and longevity. I love that. So right now, I mean, we are at the end of this month is the 3rd birthday of the public release of ChatGPT. So we have not had this technology for long, and it has caused chaos. And we are seeing it start to take a toll on the job markets. And you might think, oh, it's been ages. 3 years is not a long time. 3 years is a very short amount of time in history and in technology. Not very long, and it is causing a massive shift in multiple industries and across societies. So right now, what 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now is going to look like is really hard to predict. And anyone who says they know what's going to happen, they're either trying to sell you something or they're thick, basically, and they're being arrogant and saying that they know what's going on. I think it's too chaotic. So I love this high fruit, basically saying we accept that there's a bit of chaos right now. We accept that we don't know what's going to necessarily work. So we skill up. We make sure that we are ready and we are flexible and we're able to deal with whatever happens. And that means learning, that means being prepared, that means getting ourselves ready, basically. And then when we see an opportunity, we go all in on it. I think that is probably the play right now. It is so hard to say to somebody, no, this is what you should be studying. This is going to be the skill of the future, because we don't know. We really don't know. Otherwise, it's too unpredictable and could invest lots into something that becomes redundant. 100%. As with agents, lots of people came unstuck when it was rolled out to all. Yep. So that man about place. What fundamentals do I need to start my journey to LLMs and AI mastery, for want of a better word? So it depends what level you want to work at. So you can use AI on a daily basis as a user. That's one way to use it. For that, just start using it, honestly. Above that is using artificial intelligence to build. So building software, building businesses using AI. For that, I would check out something like Lovable or Cursor and start to learn how to create stuff using artificial intelligence. And then there is an even higher level, which is actually building your own artificial intelligences, learning how large language models work, learning about machine learning, neural networks, etc., etc. For that, I would actually say start with the mentioned them earlier, the 3 blue, 1 brown videos. So what is a neural network, gradient descent, how neural networks learn, and large language models explained briefly. Fantastic videos. They go into the mathematics without getting too complex, because he's a wonderful explainer, a wonderful educator. I'd also check out pretty much any video about Andrej Karpathy. He's done a couple of longer form YouTube videos, but they're about 3 hours long each, talking about the architecture and how these machines work. And then I'd also check out deeplearning.ai, which has a huge number of courses. They are free and you can start to study from there. So there's a lot of free resources out there. Also, don't underestimate this. Ask ChatGPT. So you take that question, hey, this is what I want to do. This is my goal. Help me with a learning plan. And ChatGPT will be able to help you with that. You can also stick it into, what's it called? Learning mode, tutor mode. I've forgotten already. I haven't used it enough, obviously. And that will help you to master concepts. So use AI to learn about AI, 100%. But first you need to work out what it is you want to do and what level, what depth you want to go to with artificial intelligence. Because you don't need to know about all the mathematics. You don't need to know about the deep machine learning of it all to be able to use it. So you need to have a think about what level you need to go to in order to reach your goals. And that's going to be different for absolutely everybody. Cool. Just going to hop over. What have we got? I want to talk about this. Yeah, I wanted to talk about this Control AI poll. So I'm nothing if not balanced. I try to be when I talk about AI. Obviously, I'm very pro AI. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing these kind of shows. I think it's exciting, one of the most exciting technologies I've ever seen. But it's useful to step outside of our bubble sometime and see what is going on and what the general public think, see what other people think. Like right now we have hunger strikes. The Anthropic hunger strike, I think, is on the 5th or the 6th day. So pretty rough for that guy. And I think the one at Google DeepMind, I think he's on his 5th day. So there are people out there who are not as excited about this technology, and it's important to understand why and to see where people are coming from. So there's this new study. So Control AI, I don't really know who. It's a UK based group. There's Pause AI, there's Control AI, there's a whole bunch of kind of anti-groups. So Control AI did a survey, and they did it specifically. They didn't do it just with their members, because that would be not very helpful, because they wouldn't be very pro AI, let's put it that way. But they did it with, here we go, YouGov. Actually, no, I think they're just covering a YouGov poll. So all figures, unless stated otherwise, are from YouGov PLC. Sample size 2,344 adults. It's okay. It's not the worst. Sometimes you see studies and it's like, we asked 22 people. It's like, well, that's not going to work. I'd rather this was hundreds of thousands, but 2,000 is okay. Fieldwork was undertaken between the 16th and 17th of January. Surveys were carried out online. The figures have been weighted and are representative of all adults, UK adults. Okay, so survey was carried out online. I'd really want to know where that was pushed. They don't actually tell us, which is a little bit worrying. But still, let's have a look at it, and let's assume, let's in good faith assume that this is statistically valid. That's always a question though. So our latest poll in partnership with YouGov found that British citizens overwhelmingly favour halting the quick development of superintelligence, 73%, particularly through empowering the Artificial Intelligence Safety Institute as a regulator, 74% supporting. Specific interventions championed by Control AI that found widespread support include a licensing regime, 71% supporting, a safety regime for AI development, 87% supporting, and monitoring large compute clusters, 76% supporting. Okay, right out of the gate here, I am surprised that if they went to the general British public, that people know what superintelligence is or know what large compute clusters are. So, okay, I would, this would be my first concern here, where if you go out into the street and say, hey, what do you think about superintelligence? Are you for or against it? Most people are going to be like, oh, that sounds a bit scary. No, I'm not for that. But, or they just have no idea what you're talking about. So the word AI is known, but when we start talking about artificial narrow intelligence, artificial general intelligence, artificial superintelligence, which is pretty sci-fi, ASI is massively in the future. Most people in the street, most people you ask with these kind of surveys won't have a firm grasp of what that is. So let's see how they actually do the questions. Let's have a look. Generally, here's the ASI one. Generally speaking, would you support or oppose prohibiting the development of superintelligence, smarter than human? They've put in brackets to help us know what superintelligence is, artificial intelligence AI systems. So generally speaking, would you support or oppose prohibiting, the development of superintelligent artificial intelligence? 60% support, 21% said they don't know, and 19% oppose. So I would say the wording of this question and throwing in that smarter than human would skew this answer somewhat, because if you've never heard of superintelligence and one of the first questions someone says, would you support or oppose prohibiting the development of superintelligent artificial intelligent AI systems, the sensible thing to say, if you've never heard of this, if you don't know what they're talking about, is, ooh, yeah, that sounds scary, I'm going to support prohibiting the development of it because it sounds scary. Entirely fair. So 60% have said that they would support prohibiting the development of superintelligence. Gosh, that's a mouthful. Would you prohibit the development of artificial intelligent systems that can make themselves or other systems more intelligent? 63% support. Again, we don't have that yet. Also, this is very loosey-goosey language with intelligent. Should technology companies be required to submit their most powerful AI models to the UK AI Safety Institute for safety testing? 82% said yes. So I have some qualms with the way these questions are being asked. I have some questions about who they're asking, because if they are asking from the Control AI website, I mean, come on. I'm going to give them benefit of the doubt and assume that they are not, and that this is a representative sample. But even so, I think that the questions are a little bit leading. But even if they're leading, even if these numbers are a little bit smudged upwards towards anti-AI, we should not dismiss the fear that is out there, because people are scared of this technology. We talked about this in the live yesterday, actually, about somebody asked, oh gosh, we started talking about the Luddites. Basically, every time there is a new technology, there is fear, there is protest, people will push back. I actually saw a newspaper article which was protesting the introduction of calculators. So teachers protested and went on strike to protest calculators being introduced into schools. This is very normal. Every time we have a new technology, humanity basically freaks out, and then a couple of years later it becomes the norm and we get on with our lives. But this kind of pushback is very, very standard. And when you say things like would you prohibit the development of superintelligent, smarter than human AIs, of course people are going to say yes, I support prohibiting that, because it sounds terrifying and people are thinking about Terminator. Anyway, I thought it's worth looking at. Have a look at Control AI. There's Control AI and Pause AI. I think it's an important discussion to have. What I have noticed is that these groups are not very popular. They have not picked up a huge amount of popular support. The hunger strike from Anthropic, the Google hunger strike, I noticed that the first tweet about the hunger strike picked up 1 million views. So that made the news. The second tweet, so day 2 of the hunger strike, was down to 20,000. No, sorry, let me pull it up. Hunger strike. I think his name is Michael Tracey. Yeah, found him. Let's have a look. So his first tweet got 1.4 million views. That's big. That's a huge amount of public interest. Second got 27,000, so it dropped off. Third got 8,000, and then day 4 is at 4,000. So it very quickly left the public consciousness, or people caring about it, at least on Twitter. And when you look at something like Pause AI, the organization, which is on Twitter, they just don't have that many followers, really. They have 4,000 followers. Let's look at Control AI. I mean, maybe they're not on Twitter. Control AI has 16,000, which is better. But yes, I'm not sure how well these groups are controlling the narrative here. It feels like they're sticking a finger in a dam and they're about to get flushed out. But that's me. Obviously, I'm very biased. I'm positive on artificial intelligence, but I commend their effort. Absolutely. Cool. I'm going to hop over. I'm going to answer some questions and then hop over to the other live. So I'm building in public. That man about place says, thank you, I'm not a dev but understand principles. Am I disadvantaged in learning this stuff? So previously was asking about how do I learn about AI and large language models. Being a dev helps because it's the language of computers and it allows you to create products. It allows you to create artificial intelligences as well. If you are at that root level trying to build AIs, then you need mathematics and you need to be able to code. There is no way around that. We cannot use AIs to make new AIs yet. And if you want to kind of compete on that level and get these, these, what was that job Somebody got a $250 million compensation package. That 24-year-old who went to work for Meta. Those kind of opportunities are only open if you are a dev, and a master level dev and mathematician or physicist at this point. However, if you just want to use AI and you want to build with AI, or you want to use it on your daily basis, then you don't need that kind of stuff. AI itself is becoming so easy to use that we can leverage AI to build businesses. We can leverage AI to build AI products. It's different from building AI. You're building products that use AI, or you can use AI in your daily life. So I would focus there. It's fascinating to learn about how large language models work, but it is not required to use them in the same way that we use the internet every day, but we don't necessarily need to know about how the internet works. We don't need to know about the physical infrastructure. We don't need to know about HTTPS or URLs. Like, you ask most people what URL stands for, they will not know. It doesn't matter. We're still using the internet on a daily basis. So we are moving towards that with AI as well, where you can use the tools, you can create amazing things with it without necessarily building the AIs themselves. You do not need to be doing that. And in fact, you can do it for fun, you can do it locally, you can put it on a local server for yourself as an interesting exercise, but it is now out of the realm of possibility for an individual to build a large language model which can compete with OpenAI, that can compete with Grok, that can compete with Anthropic. One person in their garage can no longer do that. That is, well, unless they come up with a new architecture, a better way, or a non-large language model system, that ship has sailed. Now it's about training costs, which are rapidly going into the billions, and building data centers, again, it's in the billions. It is no longer an arena where even small companies can compete. So learn it because it's interesting. Spin up your own large language models because it's fun, but it is not economically viable to build your own AIs anymore. Instead, we use the amazing models that have been provided to us and we build on top of them. So that's probably going to be the most profitable direction. But again, depends on your goals. Maybe your goal is not to make money. Maybe your goal is something else. I can't speak to that. But you can create apps with AI, right? Yes, absolutely. You can create AI apps. So I use Lovable to prototype. Well, increasingly, I'm launching with Lovable. So the next stream that I'm about to do is me building in public with Lovable. I'm on day 7 of 30, building a new application from scratch with Lovable. I'm going to take it to market before the end of the 30 days, which you can do without deep knowledge. You don't need to know how the AIs work. You just need to use them. So 100% you can build. Right, I'm going to hop off and I'm going to begin the second stream. You can find all of these videos on YouTube. The YouTube channel is youtube.com/I am Kyle Balmer, or just give it a search, you should find it. It's the same as all my socials. There's also a newsletter which comes out every single day, which is a summary of the previous day's information, as well as all the links. So for example, today we talked about the Philosophy of Artificial Intelligence, a free 10-week course with syllabus and readings. I'll put the link for that inside of the newsletter, so you'll be able to find that. So it's just a nice, easy way to get access to all information and have an archive as well. Now I'm going to be switching over to another live stream where I'm building in public using Lovable. I just mentioned it. I'm building a tool which allows you to take a YouTube video and turn that video and the transcript of that video into a lead magnet, so you can drive traffic from your YouTube channel to your email list, and then you can turn people into customers. So that's what I'm building. I'm on day 7. I'm going to be doing this for 30 days, 1 hour per day, launching it and hopefully making some money before the end of the month. It'd be nice. Who knows if it happens. The main thing is just showing you the process of building in public. So cool. I will see you over there on the second stream. It's going to be here on TikTok, but I highly recommend going over to YouTube. The reason is you'll be able to see the screen and you'll be able to follow along much better. Cool. Thanks, guys.